A girl secretly returned to her country to pursue the field of study she desired. She was currently awaiting a notification from the company she had applied to. However, upon landing at the airport, her cousin contacted her and informed her that something urgent had come up and he couldn't pick her up. But he asked his senior to come instead. Just then, an old man suddenly fainted. Kong Rong rushed over to check, and others quickly gathered to see what was happening. Suddenly, a man grabbed her arm. Kong Rong turned her head and saw a handsome face. The man quickly figured out that the old man was having a cerebral hemorrhage. He even carefully noted the time of the fainting to help the paramedics understand the situation. At this time, the staff also arrived. The man helped them put the old man on a stretcher. Watching them leave, Kong Rong thought the man's rescuing actions were very beautiful. At this moment, she discovered that he had left his pin behind. When she ran outside, he was gone. Not long after, Kong Rong received a notification about her internship at a law firm. She was even assigned to the hospital to resolve a dispute between a doctor and a patient. At this time, her cousin also helped her find a place to stay. Everything made her feel satisfied. That evening, Kong Rong went out with her best friend, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. They chatted and had drinks together. Zhao Cheng even gave her a small gift, hoping that Kong Rong would soon find her other half. She also asked if Kong Rong had met her soulmate yet. Kong Rong remembered the man she had accidentally met at the airport that day. Her best friend noticed her hesitation and asked who it was, if he was handsome, and what he did for a living. But Kong Rong said he was just a stranger. Just then, a man with a dog walked past them. The pair of best friends, after buying snacks at the convenience store, went out. A nearby dog barked, and Kong Rong was startled, causing her to drop her things. Zhao Cheng immediately asked her if she was okay. The dog continued barking, making the two of them afraid. Then they started arguing with the dog. A young man appeared and told the dog to sit. This was the second time Kong Rong had the chance to meet the man again. He quickly apologized and said it was his responsibility and he would compensate them. Her best friend quickly accepted, but Kong Rong quickly refused. It turned out that Zhao Cheng didn't want compensation, but wanted to use the opportunity to ask for the man's contact information. If she didn't already have a boyfriend, she would have sold out Kong Rong. Later, her best friend said it totaled 8.2 yuan and told him to add her on WeChat and transfer the money. But unexpectedly, he paid in cash, leaving her speechless. Who still carries cash these days? So Xiaoqing paid for them and left with his dog. Cut to the scene. On her first day at work, the supervisor gave Kong Rong a brief introduction to the hospital and then asked her to find a doctor named Xiaoqing to understand the situation. When she arrived at his office, she met the man from the other day again. She was surprised and went up to him, saying, "What a coincidence, we met yesterday, right?" But he apologized, saying he didn't remember her. He even denied being Xiaoqing and quickly left the office. Kong Rong was vaguely confused until she looked at the list of doctors on the wall. There were many sticky notes with love letters on them. She didn't know that this man was so popular. After confirming that the man was Xiaoqing, Kong Rong went to the restroom to stop him. She took out a picture of him and said firmly, "You're Xiaoqing, right?" But he just turned his head and quickly walked forward. She chased after him and asked why he was trying to ignore her. He said he wasn't ignoring her, he was just trying to avoid her. She followed him and explained, saying she just wanted to understand Mr. Lin's situation, the patient's condition, and the cause of the illness. But he said that the patient's condition was in the hospital office, and she could look at it herself. The two started arguing. She wanted a summary of the patient's situation, so she asked him to write it down. She also asked if she could see him after work, but he resolutely said no. She questioned him, asking how she could possibly find him. He said that if she was sick, she could go to see him, then turned and left. She could only stand there, angrily shouting, "You're the one who's sick." The next day, Kong Rong drew the number for Xiaoqing's clinic, but he was still unmoved. He said that he didn't talk privately while seeing patients, unless she was crazy. In the end, he even prescribed medication for brain damage. After work, Xiaoqing's older cousin, who was a few years older, suddenly came to invite him for a few drinks, but he coldly refused. Later, he walked alone, holding an umbrella under a large tree. He remembered his childhood. At that time, a little girl patted his head and said, "Okay, don't cry anymore. I'm going to stay at my grandma's for a few days, and I'll be back soon. I promise, I'll marry you when I come back." The boy secretly smiled and said, "I'll marry you." Suddenly, the girl's mother came over and called her. "Kong Rong, let's go, honey." The chubby boy was Xiao Qing. Every year, he would wait under this tree for Kong Rong to return, but she never came back. At this time, it suddenly started to rain. Kong Rong ran over with a book, and coincidentally was seen by Xiao Qing. He heard the voice in his head. "I'll come back and wait for you here." Xiao Qing quickly went towards her, holding an umbrella over her. Kong Rong was startled to discover that it was Xiao Qing. She quickly asked if she was bothering him. He said, "It's fine," and turned away. But she said she came to apologize. She knew that what she did was impolite, and then gave him the pen she found. He put the pen in his pocket and continued walking. She introduced herself as an intern from the law firm. Her name was Kong Rong. Hearing the name Kong Rong, he immediately stopped. His eyes widened in surprise as he turned his head to look back. He asked her name again. Kong Rong happily reached out to shake his hand, offering a peace treaty, and cheerfully introduced herself again. "Kong Rong." Xiao Qing slowly approached and brushed her hair back. Kong Rong was frightened by his strange action. It turned out that this scar was from when she saved Xiao Qing as a child. Xiao Qing couldn't help but hug her tightly. He excitedly said that she had finally come back. He had been waiting so long. Kong Rong was stunned and didn't understand what was happening. This action made her terrified. He hugged Kong Rong tightly, thinking that she had come to see him. He asked her if she was doing well. She replied that she was doing well. Very good. Even though she came to offer a peace treaty, she didn't need to be this enthusiastic. At this moment, Xiao Qing realized that she had forgotten him. Seeing her disappearing figure, he didn't accept her back yet. Instead, he vented his anger on her younger cousin, Zhang Zhen. Later, he lay down on the ground and mumbled, "Finally, I waited." Meanwhile, Kong Rong went to her best friend and complained that she had met the guy who paid with cash. She also had to work with him now. Her best friend heard this and thought it was a real sign of fate. The man was a rare handsome guy, and she told Kong Rong to seize the opportunity. That night, while taking a bath, she was talking to her rubber ducky, encouraging herself to work hard. At this very moment, the lights in the house suddenly went out. Meanwhile, Xiao Qing handed a bottle of water to Zhang Zhen. Perhaps he wanted to win over his future wife's cousin. His younger cousin was surprised, asking why he was suddenly so nice. But when he asked for it back, Zhang Zhen said he had to eat and drink his fill before he could run. Xiao Qing was very happy after hearing him say that he had rented a room for Kong Rong. Knowing that she didn't have a boyfriend made him breathe a sigh of relief. He immediately stood up and happily finished his drink. At this moment, his cousin suddenly received a call for help from Kong Rong. Meanwhile, she still couldn't open the door. When she heard a knock, she thought it was her cousin and quickly opened the door, running out to hug him. She whined that she was so unlucky today. At this moment, she realized how much her cousin's figure had changed. When she heard her cousin's voice in the distance, Kong Rong realized that she had hugged the wrong person. Ironically, it was Xiao Qing. At this point, Kong Rong just wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Then, they sat in the dark room, looking at each other. At this moment, her cousin had finished fixing the electricity. Kong Rong shyly looked at the other person. Xiao Qing, however, wanted to laugh. At this moment, Zhang Zhen suddenly felt the atmosphere was off, and quickly found an excuse to leave. Sitting in the room together, she began to speak, saying Zhang Zhen hadn't explained that you were the landlord. He reprimanded her, saying she didn't have any sense of self-preservation around the landlord, and would hug anyone she saw. After speaking, they started arguing again. Xiao Qing suddenly took out his phone and, using the landlord's identity, asked for her contact information. But she said it was unnecessary. He said that it would be convenient to pay the rent and also convenient to help each other. She refused to give in, saying, "Doctor, Wen is busy helping many people. I wouldn't dare to bother him with a small matter like this." Seeing her refusal to add him on WeChat, Xiao Qing promised to give her the patient's summary, which made her obediently comply. That evening, Xiao Qing sent her a message, saying to meet him at the square at 5:30 a.m. if she wanted the summary. In the morning, she went to the meeting place to demand it. Xiao Qing not only didn't give it to her, he even bought her a set of sportswear and asked her to exercise with him. After running for a while, she sat down to rest, panting. She asked him if he could give her the summary now. He cheekily said that he didn't say he would give it to her after she finished running. If she wanted to do her job well, then she had to follow him to experience the daily life of a doctor. Her best friend Zhao Cheng's business was booming. The staff reported that the restaurant was fully booked. If they could add a few more tables, it would be even better. So she went to the bookstore next door, but no one was open. So she wrote a note and slipped it inside. The person inside immediately threw the note out and wrote, "Not home," on it. She wanted to borrow the space to set up some tables, but the person inside wrote back, saying no. This tricky situation made her feel confused. The person inside even threw out another note, saying she was a noisy crow, making her angry. At noon, Kong Rong went to get lunch and waited a long time before Xiao Qing came. Unexpectedly, as soon as he took a bite, she got a call. The other end of the phone said, "Doctor, when there's an urgent case, you need to go into surgery immediately." Then, he had to leave the dining hall carrying his food tray. This made Kong Rong feel that being a doctor was really hard. Even eating lunch was difficult. At this moment, she suddenly felt that Wen Xiaoqing was truly great. Meanwhile, a man opened his shop and saw that several more tables had been set up outside. He found Zhao Qing and told her to read the characters above her head. She immediately said that 3 of the characters were wrong, but he told her it meant, "Move out of the way." Zhao Qing didn't want to pay attention to him and continued to greet new customers. So he rudely pulled her hair and asked if she didn't understand him. She gave him a condition, asking if he wanted to eat anything in the future. He could come to her restaurant at any time. No need to call for delivery. She would personally bring it to him. Wen Rang angrily turned and left. Not long after, he took Xiao Qing's dog outside and scared away the customers in the shop. Her best friend could only ask why he did that. Wen Rang softly spat out, "Scram." This made Zhao Cheng angry, and she ran to the hospital to confide in Kong Rong. She also said she had to teach that bookstore owner a lesson. At this moment, she accidentally saw Kong Rong's shoes. Her best friend asked where she got those shoes. They were this year's Spring-Summer Limited Edition. Even she couldn't find them anywhere. Now they were on Kong Rong's feet. Did someone have a crush on her? Kong Rong had no choice but to say it was the guy from last time. Zhao Cheng then said, with her years of dating experience, that he definitely had feelings for her. Kong Rong thought he wanted her to see how hard it would be to back out. It's just that today, she saw how difficult it was to be a doctor. She had to go into surgery at the drop of a hat and didn't know when she could get out. This made her best friend very admiring. Meanwhile, Xiao Qing was still trying to perform the surgery. Kong Rong quietly waited outside. At this moment, she felt how hard the medical profession was. After a day of experiencing a doctor's life, she also had a new perspective on Xiao Qing. Kong Rong sat outside the emergency room waiting for him and fell asleep. The long surgery was finally over, and he came out tired, seeing her sitting waiting outside. He smiled happily. Then he went to her side and reminisced about their childhood, sighing, "You haven't changed a bit." So Xiao Qing slowly sat down next to her, resting Kong Rong's head on his shoulder. He seemed to want to say that he wouldn't let her leave again. At this moment, Zhang Zhen happened to walk by the emergency room and saw this scene. He took out his phone to take a picture. His cousin thought Xiao Qing had a girlfriend, but when he zoomed in on the photo, he realized the girl next to him was his older cousin. Seeing the two of them wake up, he quickly slipped away to another place. Kong Rong looked at Xiao Qing and asked when he came out. She had been leaning on him this whole time, hadn't she? She blushed, thinking to herself that her head was heavy. To thank him, Kong Rong invited him to dinner. Xiao Qing couldn't help but feel happy. Meanwhile, Xiao Lu's boyfriend was massaging Zhou Cheng's shoulders and flattering her. He probably saw that she was a woman with money. At this time, Kong Rong also took Xiao Qing to dinner. After Zhou Cheng introduced her boyfriend, she arranged seating for the two. A moment later, the food was brought out. After taking a bite, both of them blushed with spice. Kong Rong was about to turn to her friend to complain that the food was not good, but Xiao Qing used his jacket to stop her, saying that they would go to see Mr. Lin, the patient, after they finished eating. After they got to the hospital, they discovered that Mr. Lin wasn't fasting. It turned out that Xiao Qing had asked her cousin to handle everything. He didn't agree to let Mr. Lin go home because his brain tumor was pressing on his brainstem. To let him go home was to leave him alone to fend for himself, which wasn't safe. Hearing this, Kong Rong was very moved by what he had done. After returning home, she finished writing her essay and sent it to Xiao Qing to review. He quickly helped her revise it and the relationship between the two had undergone a magical change. Early in the morning, when she arrived at the hospital to work, she received unusual looks from the doctors. When she arrived at her office, the supervisor teased her, telling her to quickly go find Dr. Wen. The nurses in the hospital were buzzing about the picture that had been circulating. Some people said the person in the picture wasn't Kong Rong, but Dr. Chin. They thought that Dr. Wen and Dr. Chin would make a great couple. But others found it illogical, saying that it would be more acceptable if Zhang Zhen and Dr. Chin were a couple. Then she realized that it was Zhang Zhen who sent the picture to the group chat. So, Kong Rong angrily pulled her younger brother over to the elevator to talk. It turned out that Zhang Zhen didn't deliberately send the picture. Last night, he brought food to put outside Mr. Lin's chair. Suddenly, a female nurse passed by and saw it. She pressed him for an explanation. Xiao Qing had previously told him not to let anyone else find out. He had no choice but to try to distract her. He took out his phone and showed her the pictures he took of Xiao Qing, bragging that he had taken many close-up photos. The nurse was overjoyed and told him to send them to the group chat. But Zhang Zhen didn't expect that when he clicked to send the photos to the group chat, he accidentally sent the photo of the two of them. Kong Rong immediately went to find Xiao Qing and asked him to explain the rumor. Now, the rumors were becoming increasingly exaggerated. So, he came out with her to clarify. People asked him if that was Kong Rong. She waved her hands and said it wasn't her, but he admitted that it was Kong Rong. Xiao Qing's confirmation stunned Kong Rong. People asked what their relationship was. He said, "Actually, we're childhood sweethearts. I've had a crush on her for many years, but it's only been one-sided love." However, no one believed him. This way, the photo storm was successfully resolved. Today, Zhou Cheng was shopping at the supermarket when she overheard someone criticizing her restaurant's food, saying it was both spicy and not delicious. If it wasn't for people coming there for work events, no one would go there. It turned out that her father had arranged all of this. When she returned to the shop, she immediately chased away all the customers and drank alcohol alone to drown her sorrows. She called her boyfriend hoping for comfort, but he wouldn't answer. Kong Rong and Xiao Qing took her best friend home. Unexpectedly, her best friend vomited all over Xiao Qing. Seeing this, she felt very embarrassed, and he could only endure it all. He put on Kong Rong's clothes and coincidentally saw her notebook. It wrote, "Understanding the relationship between doctor and patient is the first step to doing a good job of reconciliation." Xiao Qing couldn't help but smile happily. After going out, he complimented her. In fact, no intern could adapt to the hospital environment. She had done well. Hearing this, Kong Rong couldn't believe that Xiao Qing could say this. She looked at him affectionately, and just as they were lost in a romantic moment, her best friend fell onto the bed. She hurriedly asked Xiao Qing to help her find a towel in the closet so she could help Zhao Cheng up. At this time, her mother suddenly called. Zhao Cheng accidentally picked up the phone and pressed the answer button. The phone accidentally fell to the floor. She quickly turned to look at Xiao Qing, who was standing next to the closet, and immediately pushed him inside and closed the door. Her mother told Kong Rong to open the closet for her and asked why there was a man in her house. She could only slowly walk over to open the closet, thinking to herself that she was doomed. Luckily, Xiao Qing had already covered his head with clothes. In the end, he successfully escaped her mother's interrogation. They talked for an hour afterwards. She even forgot what had happened. Xiao Qing was trapped inside the closet. Suddenly, she thought of Xiao Qing and finally remembered that someone was in the closet. She reached out to help him stand up, but Xiao Qing pulled her down into his arms. The two looked into each other's eyes. He gently picked her up, and Kong Rong felt a sudden tension. He wanted her to experience the numbness in his legs too, so he threw her back into the closet. Just then, Zhang Zhen came to the door and rang the doorbell. She begged Xiao Qing not to go out. When she opened the door, her brother wanted to come inside for a glass of water, but then he saw Xiao Qing coming out. She angrily told him that he wasn't supposed to go out. He nonchalantly said, "I didn't agree to that." Then both Xiao Qing and Zhang Zhen were chased outside. The next day, Kong Rong accidentally overheard Mr. Lin's phone call. It sounded like he wanted to buy a physical therapy bed that could cure all kinds of diseases. When she searched online, she found it cost 38,000 yuan and felt like he might have been scammed. Meanwhile, Zhao Cheng gathered her courage and went to the store. She found the furniture inside was being moved. She knew her boyfriend had called them to move the furniture. Suddenly, She got a notification about a hotel transaction on her account. Zhao Cheng found her boyfriend hugging another girl at the hotel, using the information on the bill. She stormed in and confronted him. They argued for a while. Zhao Cheng angrily picked up a glass of water, intending to throw it at him, but accidentally splashed herself instead. Her boyfriend said he would pay for the furniture, so there was no need for a breakup fee, and then walked away. Unexpectedly, Wen Ring was also there and witnessed everything. He quietly followed her boyfriend, helping her get justice. Afterwards, he comforted her, covering her with his jacket, and silently sat beside her while she cried. Xiao Qing searched the Thieu Khan hospital for Kong Rong, but couldn't find her. He went to the office and found out she had taken a leave of absence. Through the search history on the computer, he learned that Kong Rong was investigating a company called Shi Huandong. He immediately felt uneasy. Meanwhile, Kong Rong had successfully infiltrated the company. She snuck into the finance department while no one was paying attention. She changed the access code and then cut off the network connection. At this time, a voice came over the loudspeaker. "Hello everyone, I am a lawyer. Through public information from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, I have investigated the records of this health product company. This is a well-known scam company that aims to steal retirement funds. Please do not give them money." Kong Rong was exposed. Meanwhile, Xiao Qing still couldn't find her. Just as the head of the scam organization was about to hit Kong Rong with a chair, Xiao Qing appeared and shielded her with his body. This action touched her deeply. Afterward, they were all taken to the police station. The situation was resolved peacefully. Kong Rong bought some ointment to apply on Xiao Qing's wound, but he angrily pulled her aside and said nervously, "What if I hadn't found you in time? And what if the police came too late and you got hurt? You're too reckless." Hearing this, Kong Rong thought Xiao Qing was deliberately making things difficult for her, and she angrily walked away. Wen Rang sadly looked at the book in his hand that evening. He happened to see Zhao Cheng and returned the item she dropped. She felt embarrassed receiving it because she had broken up with her boyfriend and no longer had a reason to keep it. She tossed it away, but the wind blew it back, creating an awkward scene. She picked up his book and started reading. The rustling wind seemed to signal a new love arriving. Meanwhile, after leaving the police station, Kong Rong was still angry. Xiao Qing sat down and acted cute with her, saying his wound was a bit painful and asked her to apply medicine. Seeing her indifference, he had no choice but to apply it himself. Kong Rong couldn't stand it and went over to help him. They looked like a real couple. She helped him clean his wound and gently blew on it, showing intimacy. Xiao Qing was delighted. His heart raced, and he just wanted to confess his feelings to her. At this time, Mr. Lin fainted in the bathroom and was rushed to the hospital. Kong Rong felt guilty because she was the one who exposed the scam company. Xiao Qing tried his best to save Mr. Lin, and finally, the surgery was successful. He comforted Kong Rong to go home and rest. Then he pulled Zhang Zhen to work overtime to study Mr. Lin's condition. The next day, Zhao Cheng angrily found her father. She wanted to be independent and didn't need her parents to worry about her. She returned all her bank cards and car keys to her father. She had no money left and could only walk back to the store. At that time, she saw Wen Rang driving towards her and got in his car to go back to the store. He lied to her, saying she shouldn't ride with him because they might get caught by traffic police. She shamelessly said she would take responsibility if they got caught. Wen Rang eventually gave in. Not long after, they were indeed caught by the police and fined 50 yuan. She was dressed up but didn't have any money. In the end, he paid the fine. After that, Wen Rang angrily left his car with Zhou Cheng and took a taxi back home. It was late at night when she finally returned to the store. She saw him and angrily said he wasn't a good reader and had no manners. Zhao Cheng was hungry and saw a plate of grilled meat on the table. She sat down and grabbed a few skewers. He told her to eat slowly, saying no one would snatch it away. While eating, she decided to open a grilled meat store. Wen Rang was surprised and asked, "You want to open another one?" Early the next morning, Kong Rong was awakened by a message notification. It was a gathering for trainee lawyers. She took the opportunity to report her work situation. When her senior asked about Kong Rong, she replied that she was still trying to reconcile the patients and doctors. In the evening, she was the only one sitting alone at the karaoke bar, drinking. After going out, she sat by the flower garden and started thinking about life. All she could think about were the sarcastic remarks from her colleagues. At this time, Xiaoqing called her and told her Mr. Lin had woken up. Hearing this, she was happy again. When she saw Xiaoqing, she ran over and hugged him tightly, making him feel embarrassed. Xiaoqing took her home that night. When he put Kongrong on the bed, he covered her with a blanket and prepared to leave. She grabbed his hand tightly, so he had to stay and watch her fall asleep before leaving. After waking up, Kongrong wondered why she didn't change clothes before going to sleep. Then she remembered hugging Xiaoqing the night before and felt a little embarrassed. He sent her a message reminding her it was Monday and not to oversleep. She then went to the coffee shop, only to be told by the owner that someone had already paid for her. When she went to the supermarket to buy bread, someone paid for her again. Even when she took a taxi to work, someone paid in advance. The driver gave her a strange note and told her she had good luck. Kongrong immediately told her best friend about this, worried that someone was following her. She didn't dare to drink coffee or eat bread anymore, afraid that she wouldn't see the sunlight of tomorrow after eating. At that moment, Xiaoqing walked towards her. Kongrong explained that she hugged him because she was drunk the night before. Xiaoqing immediately replied, "Usually when you're drunk, your strongest emotions are revealed." Kongrong admitted that she had a little feeling for him. He chuckled triumphantly. Suddenly, her phone rang. It turned out that Mr. Lin had asked the nurse to make a banner for them and wanted to take a photo with Kongrong. Afterward, Xiaoqing took the opportunity to put his arm around her for a photo. On her way home from work, Kong received a notice from the law firm. She was happy to see that she was rated as an outstanding intern. When she got home, she found the hallway was dark and scary, with the lights constantly flickering. She quickly turned on the flashlight on her phone and went to the pile of cardboard boxes. She found many familiar patterns on them. Kongrong thought the stalker had followed her home. She saw an open box with scary things inside. She covered her mouth in fear and ran straight into the house, quickly calling her best friend. She was afraid the stalker had moved into the apartment across the street. Her best friend asked Kongrong to wait for her downstairs, so she had to take her umbrella and bravely step outside. Unexpectedly, as she waited for the elevator, the door of the room next to her slowly opened. A blurry figure appeared behind her. The man gradually walked towards her. She was too scared to speak. She instinctively swung her umbrella, but it turned out her new neighbor was Xiaoqing. At this time, Xiaoqing arrived and saw this scene, confirming that Xiaoqing liked Kongrong. After the conversation, Kongrong learned that Xiaoqing had paid for her breakfast and taxi fare today. She asked him why he moved to be her new neighbor. He replied, "Because close proximity brings fortune, right?" Kongrong was a little embarrassed. After Xiaoqing left, her best friend admired her and advised her to seize this opportunity. That night, they had a heart-to-heart talk. Xiaoqing guessed that he would pretend to bump into her at work tomorrow, then bring her breakfast and find every opportunity to get close to her, and then demand responsibility from her. This made Kongrong think she was talking nonsense. They both fell asleep. However, in the morning, things happened exactly as Xiaoqing said. They really ran into each other, and of course, her breakfast was not missing. In the elevator, he quickly pressed the button for the first floor for her. He actually deliberately didn't drive to the hospital. His goal was to take the bus with Kongrong to work. When someone got off the bus, she was about to sit in that spot, but Xiaoqing stopped her, saying that it would be good for her digestion to stand after eating. As a result, after getting off the bus, Kongrong hurriedly ran ahead. At the hospital, Kongrong's cousin announced her desire to participate in a medical competition. Zhang Zhen told her that when he was an intern, he was pressured by a patient's family to answer many questions. At that time, Xiaoqing walked out of the operating room. He had just finished a surgery that lasted for more than 10 hours. Despite his exhaustion, he stood up to explain things to Zhang Zhen, and even ended up performing the surgery himself. From then on, Zhang Zhen considered him his leader. After hearing the story, Kongrong also started to feel good about Xiaoqing. Xiaoqing immediately ran to the bookstore next door. She intentionally used the excuse of paying Wen Rang to ask Xiaoqing if he liked anyone. Wen Rang immediately called his nephew to tell him this, making Xiaoqing laugh with joy. That night, Kongrong went downstairs to take out the trash and accidentally tripped, hitting her head on a flower pot. Wen Rang saw this and was very worried about her. She was touched by his excessive concern. He immediately took her to the hospital and asked Dr. Chin to check her. Dr. Chin had been in love with Wen Rang for a long time. When Kong Rong got out of the car, she was accidentally seen by Dr. Chin. Seeing Xiao Qing taking Kong Rong to the hospital made her feel a little heartbroken. After the examination, he took the opportunity to say, "You can sleep at my place, so it's convenient for me to monitor you." Kong Rong was confused and refused to sleep there. However, when she got home, she discovered that the door lock was broken because of a power outage. It was already late, so the locksmith couldn't come. Seeing this, Xiao Qing secretly rejoiced and told her to stay at his place for the night. After entering, the dog kept staring at her sitting on the sofa. He told the dog not to bully her, then got up to prepare dinner for her. Soon, a bowl of hot noodles was ready. Kong Rong ate it and praised how delicious it was, wanting to learn how to cook it. That night, Xiao Qing let her sleep in his room and took out the key, telling Kong Rong that she could lock the door. This made her feel awkward, but since they were different genders, she eventually took the key back to her room. Lying in bed, she couldn't sleep. Thinking back, she realized Xiao Qing had been very kind to her. She hurriedly ran out of the room and found that Xiao Qing wasn't home. She secretly ran back home, only to remember that the door lock was broken. At that time, he was walking the dog and happened to be coming home. He said he had asked a locksmith to fix the lock and change the password to her birthday. When she pressed the password, Xiao Qing quietly approached her. Kong Rong seemed to fall into a trance again, reminding her of last night's dream. Seeing the door open, she ran into her room in embarrassment. Kong Rong kept slapping her face to wake herself up. She wondered if she had fallen in love with him. At this moment, he also ran to her house. It turned out that while he was fixing the lock, he found her refrigerator was empty, so he wanted to fill it up. Then he helped her make breakfast and they ate together. Wen Ring flirted with her again, making her heart race faster. Kong Rong went to the hospital today and saw Xiao Qing preparing for the competition. She wanted to help him review a bit. At that moment, he received a call for a consultation and rushed to the patient's room. She followed him there and saw Xiao Qing's serious attitude towards his work. No wonder the nurses were all head over heels for him. Perhaps she was attracted by this aspect of him. He turned to look at her, making Kong Rong quickly retract her smile. She left the documents and left first. After leaving, they made an appointment to meet at the park at 8 p.m. Before the appointed time, Kong Rong was eager to see him and looked forward to today. She found him sitting in her school's park. She nervously tidied up, and then, no matter how she tested Xiao Qing, he quickly answered correctly. After the review, he demanded a reward from her. Hearing this, she was taken aback. Then he slowly approached her. Kong Rong blushed and stood up, telling him to go home and think about what he wanted as a reward. When she got home, Kong Rong nervously drank a glass of water. She kept thinking about what Xiao Qing had said. She felt like she had fallen into a love trap. It must be because she liked him. Even when she was preparing for bed, she was still thinking about him. The next morning, when she opened the door to go to work, she looked towards the house opposite but didn't see him. Kong Rong arrived at the office, and Zhang Zhen came over and handed her an envelope, saying that Xiao Qing had asked him to give it to her. It turned out he was going on a business trip and asked her to take care of his dog. That evening, the dog was waiting for her at home. After feeding him some yogurt, she took the dog for a walk. But it ran too fast, making her very tired. Unexpectedly, Xiao Qing didn't go on a business trip at all. Instead, he hid to the side and secretly watched Kong Rong. Seeing her helpless appearance, he couldn't help but laugh. When she got home and lay on the sofa complaining, she said Xiao Qing only cared about the dog and not about her. At that moment, he suddenly appeared at home, having heard everything she said. Then she awkwardly grabbed her phone and went back to her room. The medical knowledge competition was about to begin the next day, but Dr. Qin said that Dr. Yang's family had something to do and couldn't come. This made the chief unsure what to do. Unexpectedly, Xiao Qing suddenly said, "Let Kong Rong go with us." This made Dr. Qin a little uncomfortable with Kong Rong. The idea of her going along was quickly accepted by everyone. The chief even told her to find Xiao Qing to review her knowledge, which made him very happy. Zhang Zhen suggested that they all go to the restaurant to review their notes, which made Dr. Qin unable to sit still and asked to go along. The four of them decided to go to Zhu Cheng's store to study. After bringing them drinks, Zhao Cheng handed the key to Kong Rong and said that she should remember to lock the door for her when she left later. While they were studying, Kong Rong wanted to give up, but Xiao Qing wouldn't allow it. After a few hours, everyone fell asleep, except for him, who continued to teach Kong Rong. At this moment, he realized that she had also fallen asleep. He went over and covered her with his jacket. Back at his seat, he foolishly looked at the girl he liked and gently removed the study props from her hands. Then Kong Rong patted his head lightly. It turned out she was talking in her sleep. And by chance, Dr. Chen, who was beside her, woke up and saw this, becoming jealous. The medical knowledge competition officially started the next day, and they successfully won amidst tension and excitement. Next was the photo session. The journalist asked Xiao Qing and Dr. Chen to take photos together. Everyone immediately started gossiping about how good they looked together, making Kong Rong angrily leave. At this moment, she seemed to understand something. She went to the supermarket and bought instant noodles, crushing them one by one. When Kong Rong stepped out, she unexpectedly saw Xiao Qing's dog with two guys. She then thought about the recent dog thefts. She quickly took out her phone to record evidence and went to force them to return the dog. She knocked on Xiao Qing's door, which made him very happy. She scolded him for not taking good care of the dog and almost put it in danger. But then she realized this wasn't Xiao Qing's dog. She forced him to find its owner and then ran home in embarrassment. A while later, Xiao Qing sent her a message, saying that the dog's owner had been found and thanked his girlfriend. The next day, he brought her breakfast, but saw a note on the door that said she didn't need him to prepare breakfast for her anymore. Xiao Qing met Dr. Chen while parking and learned that they would receive a small reward after the competition. Suddenly, another doctor came over to greet them, and the three decided to use the prize money to go camping. At this time, Kong Rong had received her prize money and was about to find Xiao Qing when she ran into her cousin on the way. She then saw the three doctors walking into the hospital together, laughing and chatting happily. This made Kong Rong feel jealous again. Then the two went to the rooftop, and Xiao Qing asked her why she didn't let him prepare breakfast for her. Kong Rong said that they should keep a little distance. She returned the money to him and said she wouldn't go camping with him. That night, Xiao Qing went to the barbecue restaurant and asked Xiao Qing to help him take Kong Rong to the camping trip. The next day, everyone in the group happily played cards. Xiao Qing saw Kong Rong arrive, and he silently smiled happily. At this time, Xiao Qing told Wen Rang to go get some barbecue ingredients. After arriving at the beach, everyone simply assigned tasks. Dr. Chen kindly helped Xiao Qing carry his bag. When Kong Rong saw this, she pulled Xiao Qing away. Xiao Qing wanted to get closer to Kong Rong to explain. She asked Xiao Qing to cooperate with her. After seeing him, her best friend said that Kong Rong would go on a blind date. There were many handsome guys to choose from. He looked panicked, believing that Kong Rong would go on a date. When flying kites, Xiao Qing looked at her in front of him. He couldn't stand it anymore and handed the kite string to Dr. Chen. Then he ran towards Kong Rong and asked about the blind date. She vaguely responded to him, making him realize she was jealous. He said her kite was about to fall and then hugged Kong Rong from behind. Dr. Chen stood behind and saw everything, feeling lost. During dinner, they decided to play a game. Whoever drew the question had to answer honestly. At this time, Xiao Qing wanted to ask Kong Rong if she still remembered him when he was chubby. After writing it down, he looked towards Kong Rong, making her look up and immediately abandon the question for him. The game officially began. Everyone was asking each other happily until it was Xiao Qing's turn. His answer made Kong Rong misunderstand that the person he liked was Dr. Chen. That evening, Kong Rong thought about his invitation to meet at the beach. She stepped out of the tent, preparing to go to the appointment, but Dr. Chen stopped her. She wanted to find a place to talk to her. While walking, Dr. Chen accidentally slipped and fell on the beach, spraining her ankle. Kong Rong wanted to find someone to help, but Dr. Chen stopped her and asked them to sit and talk together. Kong Rong saw the moon in the distance and remembered a memory with the chubby boy. It turned out that when she was younger, she was bullied because she lost her father, and the chubby boy always came to comfort her. They said that if two moons appeared together, her father wouldn't disappear. The chubby boy really helped her fulfill this wish. Xiao Qing was on the other side, also preparing two moons. At this time, Dr. Chen also expressed her thoughts to Kong Rong. She talked about how she had always liked Xiao Qing. He had saved her life when she was in high school. She begged Kong Rong not to interfere in their relationship. At that moment, everyone came over. Xiao Qing reached out to help Kong Rong, but she chose to hold someone else's hand. He could only hold Dr. Chin's hand and pull her up. Watching Kong Rong walk on the beach, Xiaoqing let go of Dr. Chin's hand. He chased after Kong Rong and said he would take her to see something, but she refused him, making Xiaoqing confused and unsure what to do. After returning to the hospital, Kong Rong avoided him every day. She didn't even take the breakfast he prepared that was hanging on the door. The next day, Dr. Chin dressed up beautifully. It turned out she wanted to invite Xiaoqing out for dinner. Seeing that he didn't want to go, she used the excuse of having something to talk about related to Kong Rong, so he agreed. Kong Rong saw them sitting together for dinner from behind. When she went home, she couldn't stop thinking about them having dinner. At this time, Xiaoqing knocked loudly on her door, saying she was too cowardly to open it. Unexpectedly, this angered her. Xiaoqing asked why she always avoided him. Kong Rong wanted to quickly close the door, but he stopped her. He pushed her step by step into a corner. She asked him, "Didn't you like Dr. Chin?" After hearing this, he laughed and said, "Are you jealous?" He explained that he didn't like Dr. Chin at all. At this time, her heart felt a little happy. They looked at each other, making her shyly push him out of the door. Then she quickly ran to the refrigerator and grabbed a bottle of ice water to cool down. Kong Rong's mother and aunt came to the hospital the next day. Zhang Zhen was so worried that he didn't know what to do. He immediately found an opportunity to send a message to Kong Rong, but he was a step behind. As a result, Kong Rong and her mother met at the hospital. Her mother was so angry that she fainted and had to be hospitalized. Fortunately, Xiaoqing took care of her. Kong Rong could only tell her mother a lie that she was working at the hospital. Her mother decided to go to her house to see her daughter's living environment. She couldn't believe that this beautiful house only cost 2,000 yuan. After knowing that Xiaoqing was Kong Rong's neighbor, she was even happier. She asked him if he had a girlfriend, and if not, he could consider Kong Rong. Xiaoqing awkwardly replied that he was single. Hearing this, her mother was even more excited and allowed her daughter to stay in the country. No need to go abroad. It turned out that her mother had already liked this future son-in-law. To celebrate her being allowed to stay, he invited Kong Rong's mother to stay for dinner cooked by him. She was in his house, touring it, and looking at the house full of books. She couldn't stop praising him in front of her daughter. At this time, Xiaoqing had prepared the food and soup. Her mother then smiled at him, and they talked about Xiaoqing's ideal type. Kong Rong looked at herself and felt like they were talking about her. This made her shyly run to wash the dishes. She also mumbled to herself, wondering what kind of magical power he possessed that made her mother like him so much. At this time, Xiaoqing also confirmed to Kong Rong's mother that he liked her, but maybe there was some misunderstanding between them. Her mother supported their relationship and advised him to go coax her. When Xiaoqing walked into the kitchen, he saw soap on Kong Rong's nose. Without hesitation, he used his hand to wipe the foam off her face. At this time, they looked at each other fondly. He slowly hugged her from behind and turned on the faucet to help her wash her hands. This made her lose herself in his arms. In the evening, Kong Rong discovered that a chubby boy had contacted her, making her very happy. She even chatted with him all night. The next day, Zhu Qing prepared a beautiful outfit for her. She was very happy to meet the chubby boy, but it made her feel a little uncomfortable. That was when she discovered that this chubby boy was fake. Kong Rong angrily left, but the chubby boy still shamelessly followed her. Seeing this, she took action and taught him a lesson. Xiaoqing ran over and saw this, chuckling to himself. On the way back, he kept comforting her and wanted to take her to find the real chubby boy. But she felt very uncomfortable and wanted to get off the car to take a walk. Immediately after, Xiaoqing grabbed her hand and walked under a large old tree, admitting that he was the chubby boy. She thought he was teasing her and found it boring. He began to tell her about his childhood. He finally confessed his feelings to her, making her eyes moist. She said she needed time to calm down. He had secretly loved her for 20 years, so waiting a few more days was no problem. Xiaoqing slowly moved closer to her and hugged her tightly. Kong Rong slowly reached out and hugged him back. Their love was about to begin. He took her home and was about to say goodbye when her mother saw them, so she hurriedly went inside. In the bathroom, Kong Rong saw a small note on the mirror, making her feel like today was a dream. The next day, Kong Rong felt a little tired from work. At this time, Xiaoqing suddenly came in to ask about her. He reached out to massage her eyes, then leaned down to kiss her, but Zhang Zhen walked in. Both of them startled and let go of each other. Kang Rong's mother was cleaning her room at home when she found her internship contract. Her mother was angry when she learned that Kang Rong wanted to be a lawyer and immediately went to her law firm to ask for a leave of absence. While talking to her superior, Kang Rong suddenly rushed in and pulled her mother away. It turned out that her mother hated her daughter working in this field because her father was also a lawyer. He had always been traveling all over the place to uphold justice and ended up in trouble. That night, mother and daughter lay in bed and talked. They both opened up to each other, but her mother was still a little worried. She made a decision that if she found a boyfriend, she would leave. After hearing this, Kang Rong could only stammer and say that she already had a boyfriend, and it was Xiaoqing. In fact, this made her mother very happy. Kang Rong sent a message to Xiaoqing, talking about needing his cooperation to act. Unexpectedly, he had already guessed it. In the morning when the two of them met in the hallway, Kang Rong shyly looked at him. She seemed to want to hold his hand. Then her mother opened the door and teased the young couple going to work. Xiaoqing suddenly took her hand and walked into the elevator. At noon, he sat beside her with his phone, put his arm around her, and called for a taxi for Kang Rong's mother. Not only that, he also did some intimate actions, making her shyly leave. He also stood up and followed close behind, making his colleagues gape in amazement. While they were walking home from work, he suddenly hugged her. It turned out that her mother had come to find them. She even gave them movie tickets. At the cinema, Kang Rong was scared and hid in Xiaoqing's arms. He took the opportunity to hug her. It was because her mother was sitting behind them that she pretended to hug him. After her mother left, he took her to the park to climb the stairs. It turned out he did this to help her remember her childhood. The image of her in front and the chubby boy behind her. He couldn't walk anymore, so she helped him. Kang Rong affectionately looked at Xiaoqing. They had held hands like this before. It was exactly like when they were kids. He pulled her into his arms and asked, "Is this our first date?" She said it was just their first date as pretend lovers. But in his heart, he wanted to turn pretend into reality. They made a bet with each other. If Kang Rong passed the law exam, she would be his girlfriend. But if she didn't pass, he would use himself to compensate her. Kang Rong smiled happily and left. On the bus, she thought about becoming Xiaoqing's girlfriend and ran over to hug him. Before he could react, she gave him a surprise kiss, and then Xiaoqing kissed back. Kang Rong's mother happened to pass by, looking disdainfully. She suddenly felt something was wrong and realized this was her daughter and Xiaoqing. She happily covered her mouth and walked away. When they returned, they didn't take the elevator but the stairs. They finally arrived home, and she was stopped at the door by Xiaoqing, who asked if this was her first kiss. She said yes. Xiaoqing happily laughed after hearing this. He wanted to kiss her again, but he was unexpectedly caught by Kang Rong's mother. It turned out that her mother had come to collect her luggage and was about to leave. Seeing how happy the two were, her mother went home with peace of mind. Kang Rong's law career was about to begin. After Xiaoqing took her to the law firm, he told her to wait in the car. He was worried that her high heels would hurt her feet, so he took the initiative to tape them up for her. Xiaoqing also prepared a pair of slippers for her. Kang Rong stopped at the door of the law firm. She turned to Xiaoqing and asked him out for dinner, as their first real date. On her first day at work, she was welcomed by her colleagues. She was happy that her dream had come true. Then Sheng Guan asked her to go to his office. As soon as she entered, she saw stomach medicine on the table. He said that from today on, she would be the company's official lawyer, and reminded her to prepare for her first business trip. That evening, Kang Rong kept staring at her phone. She wanted to wait for Xiaoqing to text her, but she waited for a long time and didn't receive anything. The girl thought her phone was broken. So she sent a message to Zhang Zhen to confirm that her phone was fine. When her phone rang, Kang Rong was very happy, but she could only talk to him for a few sentences before he told her to go to sleep and hung up. Kang Rong was cursing under her breath when there was a knock at the door. She was angry and went out to open the door. It turned out that Xiaoqing had flown over, giving her a big surprise. He immediately hugged her and said, "I can't wait until tomorrow. I want to see you today." The girl was very happy after hearing this. Then he took her to a roadside restaurant. The owner happily ran over and asked, "Is this the girl that Xiaoqing promised to marry?" This made Kang Rong confused. After they finished eating, they took a walk on the bridge. She asked him if he was close to the fat owner just now. Xiaoqing said he was the first patient he operated on. Kang Rong listened to his story seriously. She felt more and more that she hadn't fallen for the wrong person, and took a photo of him. Back in the hotel, the two embraced and chatted for a long time. Kang Rong was clearly a little sleepy, but she shook her head and said she didn't want to sleep yet. She knew he had to catch the earliest flight back tomorrow. She wanted to stay by his side, even if it was only for a few hours. Later, Kang Rong left the airport and went straight to Xiaoqing's house, hugging him tightly. At that time, he wanted to tell her that someone was home, but she interrupted and said she wanted to hug. It turned out that all of Xiaoqing's colleagues from the hospital were there. Kang Rong realized it was too late and felt embarrassed entering. Her colleagues were also surprised at this sight. The gathering at Xiaoqing's house was about to begin. He called Kang Rong into the kitchen, asking her to try the food, but then he suddenly kissed her, and it was accidentally witnessed by his colleagues. The colleague turned her head away, immediately after being caught. When Kang Rong sat down, her cousin reminded her that this seat was reserved for Xiaoqing's girlfriend, and asked her to sit elsewhere. At this moment, Xiaoqing held Kang Rong's hand, making Zhang Zhen wide-eyed with surprise. Xiaoqing officially announced two things. First, Kang Rong was an official lawyer. She wouldn't be going to the hospital to intern anymore. Her colleagues told her to visit the hospital more often in the future. Then, he announced the second thing. Kang Rong was his girlfriend. After hearing this, everyone raised their glasses to celebrate, eating, drinking, and laughing happily. The next day, Xiaoqing planned to take her out for dinner, but he couldn't eat anymore because there was an emergency surgery. So their date was canceled, and Xiaoqing rushed to the operating room. Kang Rong smiled happily because she knew her boyfriend was going to save someone. Soon, night passed, and the surgery was successful. At this time, Dr. Qin confessed her feelings to Xiaoqing, but he refused firmly. He hoped they could remain friends. After saying that, he went to find Kang Rong. He found his girlfriend waiting for him all night in the dormitory. It made him happy, but also a little sad. He had been looking at her like this for a long time. Xiaoqing slowly approached and prepared to kiss her, when he discovered that her face was swollen. So he asked a doctor to examine her. It turned out that Kang Rong had only suffered from wisdom tooth inflammation, and there was nothing wrong. This reassured him. The position and shape of her wisdom teeth were quite special, so they were recorded in her medical records. He saw the interns taking pictures and asked them to leave, making Kang Rong feel warm inside. After returning, the two hugged on the sofa. Seeing Xiaoqing seem tired, she told him to go to sleep, but he immediately opened his eyes and said, "Let's sleep together." At this time, Zhang Zhen came specially to give his older sister medicine. Then Zhao Cheng also came. When the two reached the door, they were stunned by the voice from inside. Kang Rong's words were easy to misunderstand. It turned out that Xiaoqing was examining Kang Rong's wound. The two outside didn't dare to knock, afraid of ruining their good work. At this time, Xiaoqing opened the door and hurriedly went out to buy medicine. He saw the two standing outside. Zhang Zhen quickly gave him the medicine and left. Then Zhao Cheng went inside and saw Kang Rong like this. Her best friend quickly comforted her, but didn't forget to take out her phone to take a picture to tease her. It turned out that she had come to see Xiaoqing to ask for Wen Reng's address. After getting what she wanted, Zhao Cheng didn't bother the two who were in love and said goodbye before leaving. Kang Rong mumbled with a confused face. Unexpectedly, Xiaoqing pushed her down on the sofa, and another sweet moment came. Kang Rong happily went to work in the morning, but what she didn't expect was overtime. Xiaoqing had been waiting downstairs for a long time to surprise her. So, she called him and said she might be back very late, telling Xiaoqing to go home and sleep early. But after hanging up, he still refused to leave. At this time, only Kang Rong and her supervisor were left in the company. They ordered takeout. Shang Guan was eating and reading information, and accidentally bit into a chili pepper. He had stomach problems before. Kang Rong just wanted to show concern for her leader, but it made Shang Guan feel attracted to her. Xiaoqing waited downstairs. He wanted to send her a message, but was afraid of bothering her. The moment he turned to leave, Kang Rong and Shang Guan walked out of the company together. It turned out that he was worried that his girlfriend would be hungry working overtime, so he went to the store and bought her some bread. When he looked up at the building, he saw that the lights in his girlfriend's company were off. At this time, Kang Rong sent him a message, saying her phone was out of battery. She was now on her way home. After meeting her, Xiao Qing felt a little jealous of the person who took her home. Kong Rong was in a bad mood today, so the two went for a walk by the river. She was upset because she didn't do well at work, but after being comforted by Xiao Qing, she felt much better. Before returning, they were sweet with each other again. The next morning, Kong Rong was waiting for him in the car. At this time, Xiao Qing's friend suddenly got in and sat in the passenger seat. He was surprised to see Kong Rong. Then, Xiao Qing also came out. His friend just wanted to hitch a ride, but no matter how hard he tried, they chased him out. The two had a lot of fun playing in the shopping mall. They were affectionate with each other all the time. After going outside, Kong Rong said her feet were a little sore. Xiao Qing suddenly picked her up. She begged him to let her down, but she was secretly very happy. She really liked the feeling of being loved by her boyfriend. At this time, the two suddenly saw Zhao Cheng. It turned out that she had been rejected by Wen Rang and came to talk to Kong Rong. After entering the house, Zhao Cheng ate 4 bowls of noodles. Kong Rong couldn't stand it anymore and could only run over to comfort her. At this time, Xiao Qing suddenly said, "What's so good about Wen Rang that you have to be so heartbroken?" Even though she was rejected, she still felt that Wen Rang was good in every way. So, she came up with a new plan to win him over. She asked Xiao Qing if he had any good suggestions. Xiao Qing advised her to give up and find someone new. Zhao Cheng started to cling to Kong Rong, making Xiao Qing worried. To solve Zhao Cheng's problem, he called Wen Rang and asked him out for dinner on New Year's Eve. Only in this way could he stay with Kong Rong. Zhao Cheng prepared a big table of food to welcome the new year. At this time, Xiao Qing also rushed over, but Zhao Cheng didn't see Wen Rang come, so she was very disappointed. It turned out that he was still sitting dazed in the park, thinking about whether or not to go to the place where he met his ex-girlfriend again. Meanwhile, Kong Rong was busy with a case involving a young girl who was scammed into taking online loans. She was so engrossed in her work that she didn't realize it was already 10 p.m. At this time, Shang Guan walked out to leave work, passing by Kong Rong's desk. He noticed the case she had compiled. He warned her that she wasn't qualified enough to represent the case alone. But Kong Rong said the young girl was very pitiful. She just wanted to help her find more evidence to increase her chances of success. Even if she couldn't personally help her, it would at least increase the girl's chances of winning. Shang Guan was moved by her kindness. At this moment, his stomach suddenly hurt again. She quickly took him to the hospital for examination. While going through the procedures, she called Xiao Qing. He rushed over as soon as he received the news. Zhao Cheng's New Year's Eve dinner ended with a sad note. Kong Rong then entrusted the care of Shang Guan to someone else. She went to the hospital entrance. It was past 12 a.m., and Kong Rong anxiously waited. Just as she bent down, Xiao Qing appeared in front of her. This happy new year made them hug each other tightly. The bright fireworks in the sky seemed to wish them happiness forever. Afterward, the two decided to go to a restaurant. Kong Rong seemed to be in a good mood. She told him about the case. No matter what, she had to help the young girl win the case. Xiao Qing wanted to punish his girlfriend for being late. After saying that, he stood up and moved towards her, giving her a kiss. The next night, after finishing her work, Kong Rong got on the bus to go home. Xiao Qing was waiting for her at the bus stop when a heavy rain suddenly poured down. He braved the rain and ran to buy her an umbrella. They had made a date to go to the supermarket to buy groceries. They had fun for a while, but Kong Rong said she had to go to the company to work overtime. Of course, Xiao Qing was a little unhappy, but he still took her to the company. The moment Kong Rong turned to look at him, she felt like the happiest woman in the world. Suddenly, he received a call from Zhang Zhen. It turned out that the hospital was short of staff, so he had gone there to help. After a long surgery, everyone looked exhausted. Back at the office, he sat down to rest for a while, when Zhang Zhen ran in and informed him that another patient was in the emergency room. It wasn't until early morning that he could finish his work. Kong Rong hurriedly prepared to go to work in the morning with her documents. When she stepped out of the door, she saw Xiao Qing leaning against the wall in the hallway. She discovered that he had a cold and fever. She helped him into the house and used her hand to take his temperature. Xiao Qing suddenly hugged her and used her forehead to measure it. This made her heart pound. She shyly ran into the office to find a thermometer. When she came back out, Xiao Qing was already asleep leaning against the sofa. Kong Rong thoughtfully covered him with a blanket. At this time, Xiao Qing was also awakened. He playfully asked her if she could stay home, but she had important work at the company today and couldn't take a day off. She promised him that after work, she would go home and cook chicken soup for him. Xiaoqing agreed. Kang Rong gave him a goodbye kiss, and then went to work with her bag. She still felt uneasy, so she called Wen Rang. Meanwhile, Zhao Cheng wasn't paying attention to her work at the store, and was constantly watching Wen Rang. Suddenly, she heard the door closing next door, and ran out. At this time, he was about to go out to do something. Zhao Cheng quickly went out to stop him. Then she learned that he was going to take care of Xiaoqing. It turned out that she had misunderstood, thinking he was going to find his ex-girlfriend. This made her relieved. She ran into the store and immediately called Kang Rong to verify. After hanging up the phone, Zhao Cheng received a large order. She didn't expect the person who placed the order to be Zhang Yao, Wen Rang's ex-girlfriend. Seeing her hair was wet, she wanted to get a towel for her, but Zhao Cheng refused. As she was about to leave, Zhang Yao asked her to stay and asked who Wen Rang's girlfriend was. Zhao Cheng didn't think twice and said that she was his girlfriend. Then Zhang Yao challenged Zhao Cheng. If she could call Wen Rang here, it would prove that he had feelings for her. Unexpectedly, Zhao Cheng really called Wen Rang and told him that she had a scooter accident. Wen Rang was very worried after hearing this and rushed to Zhao Cheng's location. His overly anxious actions moved her. But when he turned around, he saw his ex-girlfriend and realized that Zhao Cheng had tricked him into coming. She just wanted him to let go of their relationship. Zhang Yao asked him if he still loved her. Facing his ex-girlfriend's question, Wen Rang hesitated and couldn't answer. The love triangle still had no resolution. Seeing that things were getting more complicated, Wen Rang pulled Zhu Cheng outside and yelled at her. Then he angrily left. Meanwhile, Kang Rong and Shang Guan were still waiting for the young girl and other victims. They waited until the waiter said their restaurant was about to close, when luckily, the young girl arrived with all her scammed friends. They talked for a long time in the coffee shop. By the time the meeting ended, Kang Rong had bought him a bowl of porridge. She advised him to drink less coffee, because it was bad for his stomach, and then took a taxi home first. Shang Guan held the bowl of porridge in his hand and smiled happily. On the way back, Wen Rang called Kang Rong to find her best friend. It turned out that Zhao Cheng didn't go to the store, making him a little worried. He thought he had been a bit harsh to her. Meanwhile, Zhao Cheng was crying alone on the bridge. Kang Rong called her, making her quickly control her emotions. She pretended like nothing had happened. Back home, Kang Rong didn't forget to cook soup for Xiaoqing after a tiring day of overtime. After a few hours of waiting, the loving chicken soup finally cooked. In the morning, Zhang Zhen also came to visit Xiaoqing. Someone had delivered a package to his house. Zhang Zhen helped him open it. Seeing a designer scarf inside, he couldn't help but praise his older sister for being lucky. Xiaoqing walked out and saw the gift. He saw the sender's name written on the note inside and immediately frowned. It turned out that the gift was from Shang Guan to Kang Rong, but the address was mistakenly delivered to Xiaoqing's house. At this time, Kang Rong also brought the chicken soup, but she only received a cold reply. "I'm not drinking it." She thought maybe he was feverish and still didn't want to eat. But Xiaoqing gave her Shang Guan's gift. The two had a big fight. Kang Rong said that he didn't trust her and went out of the house. Xiaoqing didn't chase after her. Then Zhang Zhen ran out and said he had misunderstood. She wasn't that kind of person. At this time, Xiaoqing also chased him out and didn't forget to throw away Shang Guan's gift. Kang Rong complained at home that she had even taken a day off today to go with Xiaoqing. Out of anger, she sent a message to Shang Guan to cancel her day off. Looking at the hot bowl of chicken soup that Kang Rong brought, Xiaoqing secretly took a sip. He thought it was quite delicious and was ready to eat it all. At noon, Shang Guan took the initiative to invite Kang Rong out to eat. He thoughtfully served her food, but she only paid attention to her phone during the entire meal. At this time, Xiaoqing called her, but she immediately hung up. He kept calling, making her angrily smash her phone on the table. After work, she checked her phone again. He hadn't sent her a single message. She angrily decided to give her boyfriend a taste of his own medicine. At the convenience store, Kang Rong bought many snacks and 2 drinks. She took out her phone and took a picture to post online. Of course, she set it to private, so only he could see it. Xiaoqing saw his girlfriend's post and took a picture with his dog and did the same. They were like having a fight online. Actually, she just hoped her boyfriend would coax her. Then she posted a picture of an iceberg, saying that some people have very cold hearts. She immediately received a comforting call from Zhang Zhen. It turned out that she had forgotten to restrict her viewers this time and had made it public for all her friends to see. The next day, Xiao Qing asked Zhang Zhen to call Kong Rong and trick her into going out for dinner. He made up an excuse about celebrating a birthday, making it hard for her to refuse. But when they met, the two continued their Cold War, neither willing to yield. When she received a call from Shang Guan, she left. Even though he was unhappy, he couldn't do anything. That evening, he knocked on her door only to discover that she wasn't home. He immediately called Zhang Zhen, only to find out that Kong Rong and Zhou Cheng were at the hotel together. Now, he felt relieved that she wasn't with Shang Guan. Xiao Qing called Zhou Cheng, and Kong Rong had no choice but to answer the phone. At this time, he wanted to apologize to Kong Rong, but he didn't know what to say. So he told her to go to sleep early, and they would talk tomorrow. This made Kong Rong even angrier. At this time, Zhou Cheng realized that the two of them were fighting. Her best friend advised her to tell Shang Guan that she had a boyfriend soon. Kong Rong also expressed that she would find a way to return the silk scarf. The next day at work, Shang Guan learned from his subordinates that Kong Rong had a boyfriend. After hearing this, he angrily clenched his fist. Kong Rong went home to see if Xiao Qing was home. At this time, Wen Rang walked out of the elevator with his dog. He told her that Xiao Qing was injured and had to stay in the hospital for observation. After hearing this, she began to worry about Xiao Qing. At this time, Wen Rang said he had a class reunion today and asked her to take care of his dog. That evening, Zhao Cheng was helping her friend barbecue for the party. At this time, she saw a man who looked like Wen Rang appear. She quickly hid, but when the man turned around, it wasn't him. She felt a little disappointed and was about to leave when she accidentally bumped into a man. When she looked closely, it was Wen Rang. He asked her why she was avoiding him. Before she could say anything, Wen Rang was taken away by his friends. Soon after, Jiang Yao also arrived. Her classmates asked them to have a drink together. Zhao Cheng saw all this and accidentally burned her hand, making Wen Rang worried. Everyone around wanted Wen Rang and Jiang Yao to play a song together. Zhao Cheng heard these familiar melodies and remembered all the memories she had shared with him. The tears at the corner of her eyes were almost unbearable. After singing, Jiang Yao found Wen Rang and wanted to make up with him. She confessed her feelings to him in front of all her classmates. Not far away, Zhao Cheng was crying. She saw Jiang Yao about to kiss Wen Rang, but Zhao Cheng didn't know that he had pushed the woman away and completely rejected her. At this time, Zhou Cheng had drunk too much. While she was drunk and about to fall, Wen Rang ran over and hugged her. Then, he carried her and walked in front of Jiang Yao. On the way home, they finally kissed. Later, Zhao Cheng woke up in Kong Rong's arms and immediately told her about her dream. She thought the kiss with Wen Rang was just a dream, and even thought that he and Jiang Yao were back together. She was envious of their love. After saying that, she lay on Kong Rong and cried. Meanwhile, when Wen Rang was taking a shower at home, he kept thinking about the kiss with Zhou Cheng. He told himself, what in the world was he doing? At this time, Kong Rong proactively called Xiao Qing, but Zhang Zhen answered the phone. Her cousin said that Xiao Qing's condition was dangerous. After hearing this, Kong Rong was scared and rushed to the hospital. She was worried because she couldn't catch a taxi. She could only take a public bicycle and pedal as fast as she could to the hospital. She ran to the room and found it was locked. The doctor said she couldn't enter because she didn't have protective gear. Even though she showed her work ID, she still wasn't allowed in. Luckily, Dr. Chen appeared and successfully brought her to the room. As soon as she entered, she grabbed Xiao Qing's hand. Zhang Zhen said that because she didn't care about him, Xiao Qing had been working tirelessly at the hospital day and night. Hearing this, Kong Rong cried. He couldn't bear it anymore and sat up to comfort her. It turned out that Zhang Zhen and the others had staged a play together. This made her even angrier. At this time, Xiao Qing solemnly apologized to her. Immediately, she told him that she had nothing with Shang Guan, so he sincerely promised her that he wouldn't get angry again in the future. At this time, Xiao Qing hugged her, and they kissed on the hospital bed. The anger and jealousy before were resolved in this way. Dr. Chen outside was also happy for them. The next day, Zhang Zhen told her that Xiao Qing didn't know how to ride a bicycle. He had recorded a video of him falling. She watched it and felt both heartache and a little touch. In the afternoon, Xiao Qing rode his bicycle and waited for Kong Rong in the park. The two of them made up for the unfinished things from New Year's Eve. The next day, Kong Rong prepared a love breakfast for Xiaoqing, but no one came to open the door, so she pressed the password. As soon as she entered, she saw an awkward scene, making her shyly turn around. Xiaoqing was already dressed, but he still teased Kong Rong. Later, she went to the company to find Shang Guan to return the silk scarf, explaining that the brand was too expensive. After Kong Rong left, Shang Guan was very sad. In the meeting, Shang Guan explained the young girl's case. The case was handed over to Kong Rong, making her very happy. She thanked him for giving her this opportunity. It seemed that he still wanted to pursue Kong Rong. She happily called Xiaoqing to tell him about the court case. He said, "Let's have dinner tonight to celebrate." It was accidentally heard by some interns with Zhang Zhen. Xiaoqing had to let them wait at the restaurant first. But unexpectedly, he encountered the patient's family, who came to make trouble. In a fit of anger, Zhang Zhen argued with them. At this time, Xiaoqing quickly ran over to stop them, but the patient's family didn't show him any respect. He couldn't bear it anymore and got into an argument with them. Kong Rong rushed over after hearing the news. She saw her cousin injured on the head. Xiaoqing's hand was also bandaged. She told the police that she was a lawyer. Kong Rong scolded them to vent her anger for Xiaoqing. Finally, under the mediation of the police, they paid a fine and went outside. Xiaoqing said that everyone should come to his house for dinner. At this time, Kong Rong had also finished the procedures and walked out. Looking at Xiaoqing's injured hand, her heart ached. She was so worried that she wanted to go to the hospital with him. The intimate actions of the two made the interns behind them a little bit uncomfortable. Everyone went to his house to chat and have dinner together. After everyone had left, she helped him apply medicine. Kong Rong sat in his lap, and they chatted happily together. The next morning, Kong Rong drove Xiaoqing to work. Before leaving, he didn't forget to kiss her. Unexpectedly, the entrance to the hospital was surrounded by the media. When he walked in, he was luckily stopped in time by Zhang Zhen. So, he decided to hide from the reporters and go to the dean's office to find out what was going on. But the dean scolded him. Then Xiaoqing took responsibility for his actions. He ended up being suspended for a month. He returned to the office and told the interns to work hard. Later, Kong Rong went to his house to check on him after hearing the news, but she found him preparing dinner. Xiaoqing said it was good to be suspended. Now he had plenty of time to spend with Kong Rong. Meanwhile, Wen Rang was attending his classmate's wedding. He was called back by Jiang Yao, who said there were many famous bookstores at the wedding. She would introduce him to them, but Wen Rang refused. When he walked out, he saw a young couple filming a short video and posting it online. This reminded him of Zhu Cheng's account, which was all about the moments they had together. Unconsciously, Wen Rang thought about Zhou Cheng and went to the hotel where the party was held before. He saw Zhou Cheng happily playing with some children. He felt relieved thinking that she was okay. After he left, she took off the bear hat on her head, sat down on the ground, and cried loudly. Zhou Cheng had also finished her work at the hotel. While cleaning up, she looked back at the stage where Wen Rang had sung the night before and said goodbye to him. She wouldn't bother him anymore. Zhao Sheng decided to go back and make peace with her father. The next day, Wen Rang stood dazed in the park, his mind full of images of Zhu Cheng. Then he received a call from a stranger. It turned out that Jiang Yao had helped him organize a book-sharing session. He went to the bookstore and picked up his guitar, remembering the days when he was in love. This guitar was a 2-year anniversary gift that Jiang Yao gave him. She bought it with the salary she had saved for a few months. Wen Rang was very touched. But not long after, she abruptly left him for her career. At this time, Jiang Yao was designing the venue for the event, when Wen Rang came to find her. He returned the guitar and completely cut off all ties with her. Now he knew where his true love was. So he bought a glass fish and wanted to give it to Zhou Cheng. Meanwhile, Zhou Cheng was cleaning up her store. At this time, Kong Rong was texting her for comfort on the phone. Before leaving, she looked at the door that had once collapsed. Thinking about the first time she met Wen Rang, she even bit him. Then came all the beautiful memories about him. At this time, Wen Rang came back with a small gift. He saw that Zhou Cheng's store was open. But what surprised him was the "For Rent" sign on the store. Zhao Cheng walked out and returned the book to him. Wen Rang really wanted her to stay, but she was determined to leave. This indicated that she no longer had anything to miss here. Suddenly, a car stopped there, and she immediately said, "My boyfriend is here to pick me up," then quickly left. Meanwhile, Xiao Qing was suspended. He was tired of cleaning the house every day, so he made Baozi for his girlfriend. After working for a while, he lay down on the sofa, thinking about calling Wen Rang to hang out. But Wen Rang was in a bad mood and hung up directly. With no one to play with, he could only do crafts to pass the time. After finishing, he thought that Zhang Zhen and the others might be doing something bad. So he called Zhang Zhen, but it turned out that the hospital was very busy. He could only take out fruit to practice surgery. Kong Rong called him after work, but he didn't answer. After coming out of the elevator, she received a call from Zhang Zhen. Her cousin asked her to pay more attention to Xiao Qing. He felt that Xiao Qing was a bit abnormal. This made Kong Rong very worried. She entered the house and saw him sleeping, so she carefully put down her bag. Then she received a call from her mother. She promised her mother she would return as soon as possible. She accidentally woke up Xiao Qing while tucking the blanket around him. Kong Rong smiled and told Xiao Qing that she would take him somewhere. The two went to the airport very early. Xiao Qing was stunned, looking at Kong Rong. It turned out that she was taking him to her mother's house. This made Xiao Qing very happy. He had bought a lot of gifts when he got off the plane. She took him to visit her old school. When they got home, they happened to meet Mr. Jiang. When he saw Xiao Qing, he praised him a lot. Then he found out that Mr. Jiang was Kong Rong's stepfather, but he always treated her like his own daughter. When they got home, Xiao Qing showed off his cooking skills. His cooking skills made Kong Rong's mother extremely fond of him. Before eating, Kong Rong's mother intentionally picked up her chopsticks and handed them to him. This action indicated that they were welcoming a new member to the family. They had accepted Xiao Qing into their family. Her father-in-law kept pouring him wine throughout the meal. The family ate happily. After dinner, Mr. Jiang sat down and had a heart-to-heart conversation with Xiao Qing. He talked about Kong Rong's father passing away early and reminded him to treat her well. At this time, Xiao Qing told him the story of him and Kong Rong. He also promised to take care of her and love her forever. Mr. Jiang felt relieved after hearing this. Then he went out for a walk. Xiao Qing sat on the balcony, breathing a sigh of relief. At this time, Kong Rong wanted to help him back to the room to rest. They lay on the bed together. She told him to go back to the living room to sleep, but Xiao Qing ignored her. He slowly approached her and kissed her. Suddenly, someone opened the door, and they both sat up faster than a rabbit. Kong Rong's mother and father walked in. Xiao Qing explained that Kong Rong was a little uncomfortable. Then he helped her inside to rest. Kong Rong's mother wanted to see what was wrong with her daughter, if she was allergic to something, but after looking her over, she understood silently. She blamed it on Mr. Jiang's wine and then went to pour water for Kong Rong. Later, she and Xiao Qing went out for a walk. They started to share passionate kisses. During their days in the countryside, she and he had a lot of fun together. On the plane back, Kong Rong received news that the patient's family had sued him. She was very worried and begged Sheng Guan to take over the hospital's case. But Sheng Guan said he couldn't take this case, it wasn't his strength. But Kong Rong still begged him to reconsider. He told her to spend more time on the other case. He then went into the office, but then he thought about it. He didn't know if he had been a little too harsh with her. He called Kong Rong to his office and reminded her to prepare well for the young girl's case. He would take care of the hospital. This made Kong Rong very happy. On the other side, Xiao Qing had found the dean. The hospital would follow normal procedures. It's just that he didn't know when he would be able to go back to work. When he walked out, the interns had been waiting outside for a long time. Some even specially prepared breakfast for him. In fact, everyone hoped he would return soon. He promised everyone that he would return soon and told them to work hard. Then Kong Rong texted him, asking him to go to the law firm to sign a contract. She introduced him to Sheng Guan. The two shook hands, preparing for a formal battle. At this time, Sheng Guan deliberately asked Kong Rong to go outside. The two sides started arguing, neither willing to back down. After talking for a while, Sheng Guan started to take out a recording device for Xiao Qing to recount what had happened. Finally, he let Kong Rong sign the power of attorney contract with Xiao Qing. After signing, they both received a call at the same time. It turned out that Zhou Cheng invited Kong Rong out to play. They went for manicures and shopping together. Then they both confided in each other about their love lives. Zhao Cheng said that she would try her best to forget Wen Rang. On the other side, Wen Rang came to talk to Xiao Qing. He felt very bored because nobody needed him. Later, Zhou Cheng and Kong Rong just got back from playing. Then she suddenly saw Wen Rang struggling with his bicycle. She drove over and called him, "Uncle." This made Wen Rang a little sad. Someone had stolen the front wheel of his bike. Zhao Cheng told him to get in the car. She would drive him home. She was afraid that Wen Rang would refuse. Unexpectedly, he got directly in her car. On the way, they both remained silent. Wen Rang wanted to confess his feelings to her at this time, but thinking that she had a boyfriend, he immediately retracted. Wen Rang continued to be dejected. Then he wanted to get out of the car and take a walk. Looking at Zhou Cheng walking, he felt terrible. He went to the bookstore and found that the store next door was under renovation. So he went there to chat with the store owner, but he didn't get any results. Then he sat in the room, dejected, continuing to look at the glass fish he hadn't given away yet. At this time, the store owner next door discovered a secret door between the two sides and said he would seal it up. Wen Rang was agitated and didn't allow him to do that. So, an argument ensued. The two of them pushed each other, causing the glass fish to shatter. When Wen Rang saw it break, he looked at it sadly for a long time. Zhao Cheng was sitting on the other side drinking beer. She was about to delete all the love stories she had written. At this time, the store owner called her and said that a man next door had come to cause trouble. After hearing this, she had no choice but to rush over. Wen Rang was also beaten and sat on the ground waiting for her. When Zhao Cheng ran to the scene and saw his bruised face, she couldn't help but feel heartache. She risked it all to pull Wen Rang up and apply medicine to him. So he hugged her and said, "Break up with your boyfriend." Seeing Zhao Cheng not responding, he pulled his hand away from her. Zhao Cheng helped him clean up the store and brought cotton balls, but let him treat his own wounds. After that, neither of them said a word. The next morning, Kong Rong and Shang Guan went to meet the patient's family. They didn't say much and immediately demanded 600,000 yuan in compensation. Shang Guan also tried his best to cooperate with them. Before leaving, they called Kong Rong back and advised her to compensate them. The two sides got into a fight with each other. Unfortunately, she fell and landed on her hand. Dr. Chin saw this and rushed over to check on her. She might have broken her bone and advised her to go to the hospital. At this time, Xiao Qing also ran over. Kong Rong lied and said she had fallen down the stairs. There were a lot of people queuing up at the hospital today. Xiao Qing directly took her into the room and put her hand in a cast. Kong Rong looked at him with emotion. She felt like the happiest woman in the world. Xiao Qing was also blaming himself. He hugged her and comforted her. Kong Rong was very happy after hearing this. Zhang Zhen came to visit his older sister. At this time, Xiao Qing brought her soup. While her cousin went into the kitchen to get the soup, he told Kong Rong that she would be staying at his house tonight. She said that she didn't need to stay at his house. Zhang Zhen would take care of her. Then Xiao Qing intentionally asked a question to test Zhang Zhen's knowledge, and as expected, her cousin couldn't answer and found an excuse to sneak away. And so she could only obediently stay. After taking a shower, she couldn't tie her bathrobe and could only sneak into the room. Unexpectedly, she met Xiao Qing. Seeing her holding her stomach with her hand, he thought she had a stomachache. Only then did he understand and help her tie the robe. Kong Rong looked a little embarrassed and shyly ran into the room. He thoughtfully dried her hair, making Kong Rong happy again. At night, she felt a lot of pain in her hand. She woke up to find medicine. The rustling sounds in the room made him walk in from outside. She said her hand hurt a little, making him heartbroken. He comforted her, saying it might be because she had run out of medicine that it was hurting again. Then he went to get her a pill and poured her a glass of water to take it. Finally, the two sat on the bed, holding each other's hands and chatting all night. The next morning, Zhou Cheng came to visit her. Her best friend wondered why Xiao Qing answered her phone call. Kong Rong was both embarrassed and happy after hearing this. Then, she calmly asked her best friend to untie the sash. Kong Rong changed her clothes, preparing to go to work. So she asked Zhao Cheng to adjust her hand. Suddenly, she saw a drawing on the plaster. It turned out to be drawn by Xiao Qing. It was a picture of their family of 3. It was so cute. She wondered how to go out with a drawing like this. When she arrived at the company to work, she covered it with a silk scarf. Shang Guan had transferred Dr. Wen's case to someone else, and it would have to wait until Kong Rong's injury healed before she could continue to participate in the lawsuit. At this moment, she could only turn and leave with disappointment on her face. At this moment, Shang Guan may not want her to be hurt anymore. All Kong Rong could do now was hope that her colleague would do their best. Wen Rang kept checking his phone. He was disappointed that Zhou Cheng hadn't even sent him a message. Suddenly, he came up with an excuse to text her. He deliberately told her to come and get a book. After waiting for a while, he took it back and said he had sent the wrong one. Unexpectedly, he received a "Ha" from her. He asked if she had eaten yet, but she didn't reply. Wen Rang couldn't focus on mountain climbing and took out his phone to check, but he saw a photo of Zhao Cheng's marriage announcement. This surprised him greatly. He then called Xiao Qing to clarify. His nephew said that this person was more handsome than him and was a good doctor. He was just a bookseller, older and not romantic. Faced with Xiao Qing's taunts, he thought a lot. Like this, Wen Rang was tricked by Xiao Qing. It turned out that the doctor in the marriage photo was just a poster in the convenience store. Zhao Cheng deliberately merged the photos. Wen Rang dejectedly returned home. He saw the store owner next door, building a wall to seal the secret door between the two stores. He didn't argue with him like he did before, but deliberately teased him. This made the store owner helpless, and he called Zhu Qing again. He told her that the bookstore owner next door was a lunatic. Wen Rang decided to say crazy things to scare the store owner. After a few words from him, the store owner said he wouldn't rent the store anymore. At this time, Zhou Cheng pulled him out and asked why he kept disrupting her. Wen Rang said he liked her. After hearing this, Zhao Cheng was very surprised. She thought she might have misheard. Then he hugged her. At this time, Zhao Cheng slowly reached out and hugged him back. The two stood like this in front of the store, causing the owner inside to open his eyes wide. After that, they started their happy days together. Zhao Cheng had sent a gift to Kong Rong. It turned out to be a pink pajamas. Zhao Cheng teased her and said to do something with this outfit. She also told Kong Rong that she had made up with Wen Rang. Zhao Cheng didn't forget to remind her to wear the pajamas before hanging up. Kong Rong and Xiao Qing were being affectionate with each other when her cousin knocked on the door and interrupted them. It turned out that Zhang Zhen bought some nourishing food for his older sister, but he had interrupted their good time. Then Kong Rong received news that her boyfriend and the patient's family had gotten into a dispute. Fortunately, a car was able to turn back to the scene of the incident. Her mood suddenly brightened. The next morning, she went to investigate the car owner and found out that he was about to go abroad. If she wanted to get evidence, she had to fly to Shanghai to find him. Unfortunately, her first trial was going to be that night. Kong Rong decided to let her colleague take over the young girl's case, while she would go to get evidence for him. When Xiao Qing heard this, he rushed to the airport to stop her. He said he didn't need to win the case, but she was determined to protect his honor. This moved Xiao Qing, and he hugged her tightly. In the end, thanks to her, the patient's family was forced to withdraw their lawsuit. He was also able to go back to work. Kong Rong lay in bed that night thinking. It seemed like Xiao Qing was going to propose to her. She took out her phone and sent him a message. Unexpectedly, they both sent the same message. They agreed to meet after 7 p.m. But when she put down her phone, she couldn't sleep anymore. She turned over and looked at the clock. It was only 11 p.m. Then she went to her boyfriend's house and deliberately said that she couldn't sleep. He used his knowledge to massage her, helping her fall asleep quickly. The next morning, she realized she was still at her boyfriend's place and vaguely didn't know when she had fallen asleep. She secretly wanted to run back home, but he caught her. She ran away in embarrassment. But when she opened the door to go out, there was a surprise. Some interns were standing outside, welcoming him back to the hospital. Then Kong Rong said that Xiao Qing was inside, and she could only go back home in embarrassment. She told herself that even if she jumped into the Yellow River, she couldn't explain this injustice. After changing clothes and going outside, she blamed him for not telling her beforehand. Seeing her boyfriend's smiling face, she acted like a child at the elevator entrance and started teasing him. Just at this moment, the elevator door suddenly opened, and they stopped abruptly. It turned out that Zhang Zhen came back to get his phone, which he had forgotten there. On the other side, Zhou Cheng was walking to the store when she ran into Wen Rang waiting there. He came to bring her breakfast and flowers. This made Zhao Cheng very happy. Then he took her out to play, but it turned out to be mountain climbing. Zhao Cheng was very tired and couldn't stop complaining. Finally, they reached the top of the mountain. It turned out that he often came here to write. Wen Rang wanted to share this beautiful scenery with the girl he liked. They had tea together and chatted. After saying that, The two kissed in this beautiful scenery. It looked very romantic. In the evening, Kong Rong suggested going to the movies. Xiaoqing happily agreed. But unexpectedly, when they arrived at the cinema, he received an urgent call from the hospital. It turned out that there was a major earthquake in Daijing City. An emergency meeting was held, and the hospital had to form a rescue team. A few senior doctors volunteered to go. At this time, Xiaoqing also volunteered to go. So, the rescue team led by Xiaoqing was formed. Kong Rong was watching the news when Zhang Zhen called her. He told his older sister that Xiaoqing had gone to participate in the rescue effort. She immediately helped him pack his clothes and quickly went to the hospital. They hugged each other goodbye simply. Xiaoqing got on the bus to the disaster area. Kong Rong waved goodbye to him. There seemed to be too much regret between them. Kong Rong watched the news about the disaster area at home every day. She couldn't get in touch with Xiaoqing. In the morning, he finally sent her a message saying he was safe and that he had been performing surgery the whole time. But she still couldn't rest assured. The next day, she asked Shang Guan for a week off. She was approved to be a volunteer rescuer. This surprised her supervisor, who asked her if she didn't care about her own life just to see Xiaoqing. Kong Rong said that she didn't know if she could see him. The only hope was to be closer to him. Shang Guan could only agree to her request for leave and reminded her to be careful on the road. Zhao Cheng went to her house after hearing the news and said it was very dangerous there. She asked Kong Rong to think about it again. Seeing Kong Rong's determination to go, she didn't stop her anymore and prepared some protective gear for her. Kong Rong didn't need it, but she was happy that a close friend cared about her. The next day, she set off to rescue the disaster area. The car quickly arrived at the scene. The task for the first few days was to distribute necessities to the victims. Kong Rong took the supplies down and looked around. She couldn't see Xiaoqing's medical team, making her feel a little lost. Time flew by, and she checked her phone, but still no news from Xiaoqing. Now he was still operating on victims. Suddenly, an aftershock hit, and he had to continue operating. The surgery was successful. It wasn't until morning when he went outside to rest that Kong Rong's car slowly drove towards him. But they passed each other. Kong Rong's rescue vehicle stopped not far away. Just then, another aftershock occurred. While searching for victims, she found a child trapped in a house. Then Kong Rong risked her life to save the little girl. When she was looking for help, the sight before her made her both happy and worried. It was Xiaoqing standing in front of her. The two couldn't say anything before they quickly rescued the trapped child. Just when they were about to evacuate, suddenly a rock fell from the roof. At this time, Xiaoqing shielded Kong Rong and the child with his body. She was very scared and asked if he was okay. Fortunately, it seemed he wasn't seriously injured and successfully rescued the child. He pulled Kong Rong back and made an appointment to meet her in the evening. Then the two went back to work. It snowed early in the evening, and Xiaoqing also ran over. The two hugged each other tightly. At this time, Zhang Zhen saw his older sister and was very happy. He was about to call her name, but he was stopped by his colleagues. Then the two sat in the car and hugged each other for warmth. After a while, he confessed to Kong Rong. Hearing Xiaoqing's declaration, she was very touched. But at this time, the loudspeaker announced that the road had been cleared, so they had to leave quickly. Kong Rong's mission was also completed. They shared a final farewell kiss. Then she reluctantly left. After a few days, all the rescuers returned one after another. They returned safely to the hospital. That evening, Xiaoqing immediately went to find Kong Rong. He wanted to kiss her, but he was unexpectedly interrupted by Wen Rang. He couldn't help but complain that taking care of Xiaoqing's dog was too tiring. After coming out of the elevator, the two wanted to quickly get away from Wen Rang, so they hid in Kong Rong's house. Unexpectedly, Zhao Cheng was already inside, preparing to congratulate Kong Rong. Then her best friend said that her mission was also completed, and left. During the meal, he said, "This year, you should come to my house for the new year." She was a little worried after hearing that, but finally she agreed. In the evening, she told her mother that she wouldn't be going home for the new year. Unexpectedly, her mother couldn't stop smiling and urged them to get married quickly. The next day, they went to the flower market and bought a Phalaenopsis orchid to give to Xiaoqing's grandmother. Then they prepared many gifts and walked home. At this time, his grandmother also came out to greet her. Xiaoqing's grandmother praised Kong Rong endlessly after seeing her. She immediately greeted her and gave her flowers, making her very happy. Then the two went to see Xiaoqing's grandfather. At this time, his grandfather was playing Monopoly with Zhou Cheng. Wenrang looked at them playing, as if he were used to it. At this time, Xiao Qing and his group also walked in. Zhao Cheng happily introduced Kong Rong to his grandfather. At this time, he wanted to give her a gift. She received it under Xiao Qing's persuasion. Then his grandmother called everyone together to make dumplings. They were all very happy together. That evening, Xiao Qing's parents also returned from abroad. They were very happy to see their daughter-in-law come to greet them. The whole family happily gathered together to welcome the new year. After dinner, Kong Rong went outside to get some fresh air. Xiao Qing's mother put a jacket on her from behind. She was worried that she would get bored, so she came to chat with her, making her heart happy. At that time, there was the sound of fireworks, and everyone ran outside to happily welcome the new year. The next morning when she woke up, she saw a bag hanging on the door. It turned out to be the dirty shirt from the previous day, but he had redesigned it. After going downstairs, she saw Xiao Qing coming back from exercising. She asked him what the flower on his shirt meant. He said it meant early sun. After hearing this, she immediately became embarrassed. After that was the annual red envelope distribution. The family atmosphere was really warm at this time. It had been a long time since she had felt this atmosphere. Xiao Qing called her to the secret room and taught her how to write with a brush. But at this time, everyone called them down. It turned out he had written her name in the family tree of the Wen family. At this time, Xiao Qing officially announced to everyone that they were planning to have children and would get married soon. This made the whole family very happy. Their wedding officially began. The happy bride held flowers in her hand. The two kissed in front of their relatives and friends. This would be their happiest day. Family and friends took photos together. At this time, the guests arrived at the hotel one after another. Sheng Guan also silently wished them happiness. After a while of busyness, Xiao Qing brought her a chair to rest on. He also massaged Kong Rong's feet, making her feel like she had married the right person. Then the host called Xiao Qing. Kong Rong waited for a long time, but no one called her out. At this time, Zhou Cheng came and said that Xiao Qing had disappeared. The two looked at the stage through the crack in the door, but they only saw the host of the ceremony. This made Kong Rong think that Xiao Qing had gone to the hospital to save someone. The wedding officially began. The host called the two of them in. At this time, only the bride walked out, making Kong Rong's mother very worried. Xiao Qing's family was also shocked. Everyone wondered where the groom was. Kong Rong explained that he was a doctor, so he must be saving someone now, and she would definitely wait for him to come back. After her speech, relatives and friends all gave her applause. At this time, the big screen suddenly lit up. It turned out that Xiao Qing had prepared a surprise for her. He slowly walked towards her. He looked handsome under the light. The two looked at each other affectionately for a long time. They both remembered the fragments of the past in their hearts. Finally, they kissed in front of all the guests. This perfect wedding came to an end. Afterward, they went into the bridal suite. They also had a sweet wedding night. A while later, Kong Rong also became a famous lawyer at the company. In the hospital, a man in a doctor's coat and trousers walked with a phone. The nurses looked at him with admiration. It turned out that Zhang Zhen had become a doctor who was loved by everyone. At this time, Kong Rong came back home and hugged Xiao Qing, happily saying that she had a big present for him. It turned out that she was pregnant with twins, making him very happy. Xiao Qing immediately called Wen Rang. At this time, Wen Rang also knelt down and proposed to Zhao Cheng. Of course, she immediately agreed, and the two embraced tightly. An ending that couldn't be more perfect. Thank you all for accompanying us on this journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to watch more great movies. Goodbye, and see you next time. Bye.